This morning we've got a Browning B25 in a true custom configuration. The reason that it's a true custom configuration is because it started out life as a trap gun. I've measured the chokes and somebody has taken the chokes out to 1.25. One of the things that I've forgot to mention, as I said, there's so much to talk about. One of the things I forgot to mention with most guns, it's the markings, whether it be the serial number, whether it be the date stamps, whether it went to a specific individual. It's the markings that denote its age and its rarity, basically. So a serial number, run, a sequence can mean it was a particular place at a particular time. I'm talking more about military guns, Second World War stuff, First World War stuff, things like that. As I said, I like guns across the board generally. So what we've got with this one today, as I say, B25 custom, the engraving on this one is in what they call a Diana style. Now, the Diana in Greek mythology, I believe it is the goddess of hunting. You do see a few guns with Diana engraved on them. There's a few others that are to do with hunting basically. But when I say that this is in a Diana style, it's not quite a Diana. There isn't quite enough birds on it. The engraving is absolutely up to par, but it's... Now, when we're talking about engraving, the beauty of shotgun engraving is the fact that it's different. Not only have you got artistic license with any drawing that you do, you've also got no two pictures, especially hand-drawn pictures, no two pictures are ever going to be the same. They will be unique each time. With the engraving that you get on the shotguns and on the Brownings, you can put two guns on the table from two different eras and they're similar. Similar is basically it. So with your artistic license, you can have a longer tail on a pheasant, a shorter tail on a pheasant, not just because it's old and young, but you can have a different sized bird. The one thing that I don't like particularly about game scene is they never get the head right. The body is okay, the head is something that is quite difficult to draw. What we've got with this gun is we've got a slightly shorter stock than standard nowadays. I've measured the stock on this gun and it is about 13.75 inch long. To me it feels very nice, and especially when you get a coat on for game shooting, it feels particularly nice. Now, let me just show the camera. Can you tell me if that's focusing in, Paul?
Yeah, make sure it does. What were you focusing on the rib?
It's the rib that I'm trying to get.
Yep.
Now, this is obviously a very wide parallel rib. It does taper ever so slightly here down at the breech. On Brownings, this is what they call a Broadway rib. Basically, it is quite a wide rib to get a bit of weight on the gun. Now, as I said with the markings, and I'm going from one conversation to another, as I said with the markings, it's the markings you want to look at. Now, I have taken the fore end off this gun and I have taken the barrels off and I've had a good look. This gun is covered, absolutely covered in markings. Now, with the English stuff, because as I say, I like the English stuff as well, they don't tend to mark the... How much time, mate?
You're only on 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes, good, good. With the English guns, they don't tend to mark the people that worked on the gun. Now, what you will get with your older guns up until about especially in England, up until about 1960, they were very much handmade. Handmade is something that we're moving away from across the world nowadays, more so than guns than anything really. With the gun trade itself, you've got about 40 different apprenticeships. Jointers, actioners, barrelers, stockers. You would have people that just worked on ejectors, and when I say just worked on ejectors, all I mean is they timed the ejectors up. So as when you open the gun, they kicked off together. A few of the people that will watch these videos will have seen some of the older guns, something that's got a little bit of wear, and they'll see that either the top barrel or the bottom barrel will kick off ever so slightly before. It's very hard to time a set of ejectors, not on a modern gun, they're quite easy, but the older stuff, especially the English stuff, very, very hard to do. But it's a story for another day. So when this gun was made in Belgium, I've looked it up, this gun was 1970, they would have had about 25 different people that would have handmade this gun. Handmade the stock, handmade the action, laid the ribs, tinned the barrels together, handmade basically. So this gun has been marked. What I was trying to get to was nobody is allowed to sign their work on a gun other than the engraver. Some engravers choose to sign their work, some engravers don't choose to sign their work. And again, all I'm doing is talking really at the moment about Brownings. Please bring the camera over here, Paul, and let's show the customer, let's show some of the people what we've got. So because this gun has been fully custom for a particular individual, as I say, you've got a slightly shorter stock, you've got a very slight, can you see the Monte Carlo comb just the back here? A very, very slight Monte Carlo comb on it, Paul. You've also got skipped checkering, which some people like skip checkering. I personally think it looks quite nice. If it's not done very well, it's like all checkering, it doesn't look wonderful. So you've got a pistol grip cap here with a white line in between it. This will be in rosewood. You've also got a horn, some people would call it ivory horn. Could even be a piece of plastic. In 1970, I doubt it. So we've got, is this the side I want? No, let's flip it over. With Brownings, Paul, they mark the chokes on the gun. Top barrel would have been a 3/4 choke. Top barrel would have been a full 1 notch. Bottom barrel would have been a 3/4 choke. As I say, I've measured the chokes on this gun and they're 1/4, so somebody has played with it ever so slightly. Can you see the engraving on it, Paul?
Yeah, get the engraving in, yep. Zoom in a bit.
Now, I was having a conversation with a guy a couple of days ago. The more broader style engraving, can I roll it over?
Yeah.
So the more broader style engraving that this is, wasn't to the guy I was talking to, wasn't to his taste. And we settled on, can you see the dog on the trigger guard there?
Yeah, let's get that focused in. Yep.
So we settled on the words slightly naive for the engraving. Now, when I say slightly naive, I would also like to say that engraving for shotguns is one of the longest apprenticeships in the gun trade. And how much time we got left?
About a minute and a half.
About a minute and a half. Okay then. And one of the things that I will say about engraving, years and years ago, Paul, it was a necessary evil. A lot of the English guns, let's show the, now you've got the top rib on this one as well, Paul. So the rib has ever so slightly been finished off. Instead of being square, it's rounded off all the way down, Paul.
Yeah. All
the way down, and it's right at the end where the bridge is that I would like to show you. So here as well, finished off very, very nicely, basically. Now, with what I said about the markings denote whether the gun is of a particular era, at a particular age. With shotguns, you have to look at every mortal piece of the gun. You have to look at the ribs.
30 seconds left, mate.
Okay, mate. You have to look at everything. One more quick thing, Paul, I'll just show you. The quality of the engraving that is on this gun, to my eye, very, very nice. What surprises me the most, can you focus in on that man's name?
Yep.
How much time, mate?
We've got 10 seconds.
What amazes me, Paul, why is that man's name stamped on there? Why is it not written?
Yeah.
Why? What I was showing in the other part of the video is the engraving, beautifully done, Paul. What amazes me is why that man's name is stamped on there. If he was good enough to engrave that gun, which clearly he was, why did he need to stamp his name on the side of it? Which, these are the silly little things that you need to look at in the shotgun world to try and figure out a little bit more about the gun. So, at a glance, with the wide rib on this gun and the choking that's in it, at a glance you would think that this was a sporting gun. It wasn't. When it came from the factory, this would have been a trap gun. So, as I mentioned, it was a custom grade basically. That is because the engraving is of a style, but the style isn't quite close enough to, as I said, a Diana, to make it a Diana, a Browning Diana shotgun or a B25. So let's have a look at engraving underneath the top lever here, mate. Yeah. So you've just got your serial number there in a little banner, all your checker, all your engraving finished off. And Paul, what I keep saying with the videos, these are not reviews, these are just generally showing people what I like, and if somebody's got an idea of something else they'd like to see, even silly things like this, Paul. See where the checkering finishes rounded? Yeah. It's not just squared off. It's not just straight lines. The reason that they don't do the reason that they use a curve is because it's harder to checker a curve than it is to checker a straight line. Snarble fore end. So, any other?
I think we got in the checkering, haven't we? We've got in the engraving. Did we get in underneath? Not sure. I think we did, didn't we?
And Paul, this gun belongs to my gunsmith. I was having a conversation with him about it the other day. And what was I going to say? Come on, Tim. Yeah, sorry. Cut that bit out. Oh.
Yeah, we'll take it out, yeah.
Don't worry about it. I remember now, Paul. What I was going to say was, there's so much to learn. Do you want to learn about wood? Do you want to learn about engraving? Do you want to learn about models? Do you want to learn about eras? Do you want to learn about how they was made? Where do you draw the line, basically? So I've shown this Browning B25 because I think it's beautifully engraved. I think it handles beautifully. It's got a few knocks and scratches on it. The gun was made in 1970, it's 48 years old. You show me something that was made in 1970 that hasn't got a few scratches on it. So, yeah, there you go, mate.
There we are. Go one last bit across it.
And we've got plenty more guns to do, Paul. These are just...
So I'll tie this all up with our other B25 videos that you've done.
Please.
Brilliant.
Thank you.